Welcome to Coast View, the show that every single day celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. I hope you had a great weekend and that your Monday has started off on a wonderful note. When I look back at my career, both at the Sun Herald and the other publisher roles that I had across the Gulf South, I remember that one of the most treasured relationships that I had as publisher of those newspapers, and especially the Sun Herald, I might add, was the relationship that I had with the local law enforcement community. That's why here on Coast View, we spend a lot of time talking to fire chiefs and police chiefs and others who are involved in law enforcement. It's a tough world they work in, and they keep us safe. And I think there's a lot of movement across the United States these days that are about bringing more focus to why we should respect them, why we should help them, why we should fund them, why we should love them, because they keep us safe. And certainly that has never really been a big issue here in Mississippi, especially in coastal Mississippi. We're fortunate to have incredible leaders here in this community all along coastal Mississippi. Most recently, though, one of them, Chief Wayne Payne from the Albertville Police Department, announced his retirement. And I couldn't help but wonder, why didn't I already have him on Coast View? Because we go back a long way. He had been in law enforcement for many years, has a great story to tell. He built from the ground up the Albertville Police Department. He is an incredible law enforcement leader here in coastal Mississippi, and someone I've known for a lot of years. I knew him long before I was a publisher of the Sun Herald, certainly knew him as publisher of the Sun Herald. And we're friends on Facebook. I've been able to keep up with his wonderful family. And he's just a good guy. And he's part of this Payne legacy, the Payne family legacy. And I'm thrilled to have Chief Wayne Payne on with me this morning. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Good morning. Yeah, I can remember the mobile medic days. When Ricky Mathews was a paramedic there.
Yeah. You were at the Gulfport Fire Department then. So you listen, man. We go back a long way, and I've always liked you. You've always been a likable guy, and it's interesting I kind of followed you along the way. But once we had that connection, we just kind of kept it over all those years.
That's true.
And time flies, though, doesn't it, Wayne?
It does. It just seems like yesterday that. I walked in the doors at the Gulfport Fire Department as a rookie firefighter. And 28 days after I started that, I married my high school sweetheart, Paula. And we're still married 47 years later.
Wow, so much to say, man. You've literally done it all. You literally built your career from the ground up. And you landed there in D'Iberville, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. But you're part of a Payne family legacy. Do you feel that?
Oh, certainly. We in the Payne family, we have a public servant mentality, and from my father and my uncles and my cousins, and we have been in law enforcement and public servants all along the Gulf Coast, and we were brought up right, and we were brought up to do the right thing, and it certainly, I just didn't wake up one day and I was this police officer. I had a lot of help along the way, different chiefs of police that. Hayward Hargrove and George Payne and Larkin Smith, and I can go on and go on about the different chiefs that has helped me in my career.
I know all those men so well. It's amazing how time flies. I mean, you mentioned Larkin. What an incredible man he was, and what a tragic death. My wife actually did an internship for him when she was at the University of Southern Mississippi. And, I already knew him. I just knew him. Actually, when I was in advertising at the Sun Herald, handled the advertising for his campaign for the Sun Herald. But I knew Larkin well. And, he'd gotten to Congress and was just, who knows where Larkin would have ended up had he not had this untimely death.
It's unbelievable. There's no telling where he'd be today.
Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. Man, we've touched so many people. I mean, George Payne, I had Jace Payne, who's now the communication and marketing manager for the city of Gulfport. I had him on the show last week. And Jace is a bright young man making his mark and coach young professionals and in other ways. But he's not alone. There's a whole cadre of Paynes that are coming up, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right. Both my sons are in law enforcement. Matter of fact, my oldest son retired from the city of Gulfport Police Department, and he started his second career. And my youngest one is a lieutenant with the Biloxi Police Department. So, and I've got a granddaughter that's a dispatcher with DMR. So we're all over the place.
You are all over the place. Does it seem like, I mean, you did build the police department from the ground up. Does it seem like you just came there in a lot of ways?
It really does. And they hired me in 2007, and Richard Rose was the city manager at the time. And he told me, you got 12 months to build this. And I said, that's plenty enough time. And I can remember October 1st of 2008 when we were taking over, I still had stuff to get done. And I said, boy, this year went by fast. But 14 years later, we started out in a double wide. We went to a refurbished building, and then we're in this new state-of-the-art building. And this building is amazing. And my guys are certainly proud of it. Our citizens are proud of it. And it's going to be here for a long time.
Man, it's really, I agree. It's a special place. I had the opportunity after Katrina to work closely with the city of D'Iberville, because when we had these charrettes with architects and planners from around the world, including the Prince of Wales Foundation, the architect and planner from Miami that worked specifically with the city of D'Iberville, they stayed engaged with him long after the charrettes were over. And I actually attended some public meetings and spoke at them for the mayor. And think about the impact that Mayor Quave had over all those years. It literally just mirrors your sort of ascension at the fire department. But you guys had to be big time partners to get to where you are today.
He is truly an ambassador of this city, and it's remarkable. He has so many ideas of where we need to go, and he has helped so many, including myself, so many people in this city. He loves the city, and he certainly loves its employees.
If you go back and look at the history of D'Iberville and its unique relationship to Biloxi, it is interesting that it has evolved in a way that has been complementary to Biloxi, the way I would say it. It's pretty interesting. It used to be sort of the people lived on the North Shore and they were in the county. They weren't in this incorporated area. It becomes the city. And, a lot of really important moves are made from an economic development point of view that made D'Iberville, in a lot of ways, a center for a lot of retail commerce in coastal Mississippi, for that matter. But there were some smart moves made along the way, weren't there?
They certainly were, and I got to put us above Biloxi now. I'm a D'Iberville guy now, so but it really truly it's exploded in the economy here, and there's so many great ideas that's coming up from our city manager to our councilmen and councilwomen and then the mayor. They truly love this city, and they truly love what they do here.
They became aware of the need for sort of a town center. They created an entertainment district after Katrina, and knew that could be maybe a big contributor to the city's success going forward. If you look back now, of course, we could understand every aspect of it, but the Scarlet Pearl coming out of the ground, becoming what it is today with great leadership, I might add, in Luann Pappas and what she does there. But it's contributed greatly to the city, hasn't it?
It certainly has, and the Scarlet Pearl and Luann have been tremendous partners with this city, and the things that they've been able to do for this city, it's just remarkable. I can't thank them enough.
It is so many complementary pieces, and what that meant though is that during the time, I mean, you come to the city of D'Iberville is sort of this new city. People really not sure what it's going to become or what there's going to be of it in the years to come. So you come there, a lot of unknowns really in 2007 when you came there. What I mean, you had to build this thing from scratch. The mayor, it was in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, and there were a lot of unknowns still, weren't there?
You know, when I started and you started in this business, D'Iberville was known as North Biloxi, and when Richard reached out to me and said that they want to start their own police department, I said I'll help any way I can. And then we came over here, and what a great city! What a great city! The mayor opened up his arms and said, "Welcome to my city." The citizens opened up their arms and said, "Welcome to our city." And we have such a great working relationship. You know, we built partners with our clergy, we built partners with our schools, and we built partners with our business leaders. And it has truly been a success story here.
This is Chief Wayne Payne from the D'Iberville Police Department, who just recently announced his retirement. And I want to remind people that, why did they start building a police department in 2007? What was actually happening before that? Will remind you what that relationship was and how they actually dealt with their law enforcement needs and the evolution of the department over so many years. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Coast Vue. I have Chief Wayne Payne from the D'Iberville Police Department, who just recently announced his retirement. And when we went to break, we were talking about him coming on in 2007, forming this new department. But the city was formed in 1988, one of the youngest cities on the coast. What did it do between 1988 and 2008 when it officially launched its police department? They had a great relationship with the Harrison County Sheriff's Department. Tell me more about that, Wayne.
You know, in 1988, after the incorporation of the city, the policing needs were met by the Harrison County Sheriff's Department. Larkin Smith and Joe Price and George Payne and Melvin Bristolari and Troy Peterson all contributed to the success of the security of this city. And certainly can't thank the Sheriff's Department enough. And matter of fact, we still contract our dispatch with them.
It's incredible. All those names, man. Names, and Neil Resch was in the midst of all that.
Neil was in the middle of that. That's
yeah. Correct. So all these old friends of ours, and gosh, all these incredible names in law enforcement. So as you look back on your tenure, certainly forming the department was a big deal, and getting it to where it is today. But when you look back on it, what stands out in your mind? What are you most proud of?
The men and women. We've had so much challenge over the last few years, but the men and women that I've said this many times, that pin that badge on every day, leave their homes and come and protect us. That's what I'll remember.
Wow. When you look at what's happening, you heard what I said at the beginning of the show about sort of the national situation and this, too many communities are torn between whether they should support their law enforcement men and women, or whether they should somehow be in this kind of tearing them down, I guess is the best word. You don't experience that in your role, do you? I mean, the relationship between the community and the law enforcement people in D'Iberville, for the most part, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. It's pretty good, isn't it?
It really is, and we've enjoyed that all along this coast, really. One of the first things I did when I got here is I formed a partnership with our churches. And Preacher King, Tabernacle Preacher Davis, we came together, and we didn't have an agenda. We just wanted to talk. And we sponsored a lunch here. I started it. We sponsored a lunch. The preachers came. We sat down and we just talked. And then from that point on, about every quarter, we'll go to a different church and we'll sit down and we don't do nothing but talk. And we do that because when the moment comes that we have a tragedy or have some kind of thing, they're going to know that we're going to do what's right. But they can pick that phone up and call and say, "Hey, Chief, what's going on with this?" And I've had several conversations with all the preachers with events that have occurred along this coast, and tried to explain to them this is why the officers had to do this.
That's so important, Wayne. And, I've often said throughout my career that those tough situations in the community, really tough situations that could have been a real divided moment, whatever the situation is, where there could be people on either side of an issue and about to go to loggerheads with one another. The time to solve that problem is not when you have a problem. The time to solve that problem is before you have a problem. So you can already know each other. So you can already know what your intentions are, what your motivations are, that you're good people who want to serve the community, so that when you have the problem, it's a lot easier to come to grips with one another, because you're not challenging each other's motives. You already know what your motives are. It's important, isn't it?
It's very important, and we have that relationship here, and a lot of chiefs along the coast have that relationship with their community. We once again, that's one of the first things I did here, because I thought it was so important, and we got a great working relationship with our preachers, and they truly help us. Matter of fact, we have a local church here that during our Mardi Gras parade, they come and they cook for all the officers.
Man, that's so special. I've mentioned this on the show a couple of times, and it seems to be notable more recently, but the University of Georgia football team coach had these, I think they called them skull sessions, where they brought their players together and they talked about their backgrounds and what their challenges were in life, and they got to know each other better. And it helps create a team. When people have respect for one another and understand where they came from and what their challenges and in some cases opportunities were in their lives, they get to know each other better. They trust each other. That's what makes your team so good there at the police department. Your team knows each other. And this outreach that you mentioned, whether it's the police chief of Gulfport or Biloxi or anyone else I talked to, they put, and now you testified to the fact that you do as well, put an enormous amount of energy into reaching out to the community, and it pays off, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. You know, police can't be everywhere, and when something happens in a city, those phone calls that we get and saying, "Hey, you need to check this out. You need to check that out." One of the other things I did when I started here is that I reached out to our schools, and we started a luncheon every July with all the principals of the schools in our jurisdiction. And once again, no agenda. Just wanted to get them to know our school resource officers. School resource officers know their principals, where they're going to be, so we can look out for the interest of our children. And once again, another great working relationships with Harrison County school system.
Wayne, you've had, you go back and look at your career, you've literally reinvented yourself. I don't know how many times, because you've had the chief role in Long Beach, you've had significant roles in Gulfport, you've had significant roles in Harrison County Sheriff's Department, and now you've built this one from the ground up. Of course, as you mentioned, you started as a fireman. It's hard to believe so many chapters in your life have come and gone. I mean, in retirement, as you look back on that, does it amaze you that you're now at this moment, really essentially, I guess, another retirement, really, but how do you look back at your career?
You look back and you just, you pray that you've touched some lives. And I think I have. I look at all the guys that have gone on that are chiefs of police that were under my command, and Keith Davis, the deputy commissioner for Sean Tyndall. I mean, I can go on and name list. Leonard Papania, Alan Weatherford, Steve Barnes. I can go on people that I helped along the way that are chiefs of police and CEOs and deputy commissioners, and Clay Jones was my deputy chief, and now he's my boss. That'll say, and watch that ladder as you climb. So of course, Clay's done a good job here.
Again, all those names you mentioned, unbelievable. Of course, Leonard Papania, former chief of police for the city of Gulfport, is now the chief administrative officer for the city. And, the city has as a goal economic development, keeping the community safe, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, just think about how the sum total of all his experiences to work in the homeless community and how that helps him today. But, hey, I mean, so many of these men and women that you mentioned are so incredibly impacted by people like you, just like Larkin and others impacted you, and George Payne and others impacted you. It's a tight knit group. It's a generationally tight knit group, isn't it?
It is, and we all had the same goal, is for the betterment of our community. And you look back on that, and it's certainly a great feeling for me.
So, are you excited? You excited about drifting off into the sunset?
My wife's way more excited than I am, but yes, I am. It's like I've said this a million times this week. It's time to allow new leadership here to take this organization to the next level, and I'm certainly going to work closely with whoever the new chief may be, and I look forward to seeing what they do. Whoever sits in this chief's chair is going to do it their way, and I understand that. I took over from George Payne, which was big shoes to fill, and he took over from Chief Hargrove, who took over from Larkin, and so whoever the chief is going to do things their way. And I once again, I hope along the way I've been able to help some leaders along the way, and some of the ideas that I started here, hopefully they'll carry on.
And like me, man, in retirement, you're going to spend a lot more time with your grandchildren, which you got a house full of them. That's going to be a lot of fun for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I got 3 granddaughters, and they're in college, and one is once again a dispatcher DMR. The other 2 are going into the medical field, and I'm certainly proud of them.
Good for you. Hey, man, it has been an absolute pleasure, not only to touch base with an old friend, but to also celebrate your contributions, not just to D'Iberville, but to law enforcement across the coast. I wish you well. I wish you happiness and health in your retirement. Stay busy, stay active. That's the key to survival these days. Just keep moving.
That's correct. I'm going to try to do that. I've already got a list of honeydews that I got to do, so that's going to take me a couple of months.
I got a few of those too, man, even today. Listen, it's been a pleasure. Take care, my friend, and God bless you and your family.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. Have a good day.